for listeners out there, to have an A+ for your business with the BBB in every state, in every market, when we were in 51 cities and 17 states, is unheard of. But we had the best customer service in the world, the best service in the world. We were winning awards left and right. I was winning awards. The company was winning awards. We were the darling of solar. All these TV commercials, 5 NFL teams got solar. You name it. It was like, oh my gosh, that's the future of energy. Then we went from 800 phone calls a month and service calls to 3,000. Then it went to 30,000. 800, 3,000, 30,000. We're like, what the hell is, and it wasn't 30,000 customers, just 30,000 calls. So now we have people on hold for 4 or 5 hours. We had to get a new call center. We're adding all these people. We're scratching out what's going on. All these complaints are happening. That nasty report in Detroit happened where that guy didn't even give us an opportunity to talk to him. And 19 of those 21 complaints were Generac-related. We found out later. All these things that started happening, we're scratching our heads like, what's going on? And we're calling Generac like, dude, we're having to keep replacing these parts. And, do you guys have an issue? And they're like, oh, it's the firmware. So what had happened is in 2021, we'd never had a fire in any of our customers, never had any issues like that. In April 2021, there was a fire in Kentucky, and the inspector came back and said it was Generac related to this part called a Snap RS. And so we freaked out. We called them. They're like, well, we've never heard of any issues with that. So then they gave us an email. Then 2 days later, another one happened. And then they gave us an email and said, oh my gosh, we figured out the issue. We put this firmware out that's going to fix it. We're like, firmware? They're like, yes, we're updating all the systems. It won't let them heat up like that again. We said, are you sure? They said, yes. So this is April, May of 2021. Fast forward, we don't have any fires. We are replacing these parts, and we're calling them like, why are we replacing them? Well, if they heat up, they're probably old. You got to replace them. So we're replacing these Snap RS as we go. But then all of a sudden they did a major update in fourth quarter or early 2022 in first quarter. And all of a sudden over 10,000 of our 20,000 customers with them weren't producing. Because what happened was when they send this firmware, it governed the system. It wouldn't allow it to produce. It shut it down without them telling them, partial of their different arrays. So a consumer that thinks they're going to produce $300 of power a month might only be producing $100 of power. They're getting pissed. They're like, these guys told me shit that doesn't work. They're calling it. They're on hold. More complaints are stacking. All of a sudden, news articles are coming out. All of a sudden, fucking the BBB's question. We're like, what is going on? So we got to the bottom of it in April, May, and Generac was like, this is on us. We should have done more due diligence. We're going to make it right. We're going to send the customers a letter. We're like, please do. We've been a great partner. We're sitting here taking shit. It's hurting our brand, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Well, they continued to dance and do the wrong thing. They sent a half-assed letter. I had multiple calls with their executives, including their CEO multiple times. It's in the complaint in the lawsuit, where he assured us he'd make everything right. We were reimbursing customers for their months that they were down, and Generac was supposed to pay us for that. They ended up sticking us for $81 million in service and reimbursements to customers as we were getting ready to close. And then they kind of just turned their back on us. And so, me and the CEO had a very, very heated conversation multiple times. And, one of them was like, dude, every time I wake up, I'm fighting to keep my company alive because you guys did the wrong thing. You bought the wrong company. You didn't do the due diligence. He's like, Jason, I'm so sorry. We should have done more. We have all the recordings. We have all of that stuff report. So it's not like we're making this up. However, then when it came time to push, the problem was, and let the record show, because there's lawsuits against him, he didn't tell his investors about this problem. He didn't tell his investors about this many failures, which was a 41% fail rate. We have 20,000 customers with them. That means 41% of them have a failure, and eventually it will go to 100%. They said eventually you're going to have to replace all of them. So here we are being from a company that does 800 installs a month to doing 50 to 100 installs a month, and that used to do like 500 service calls a month to doing 2,000 service calls a month. The business model switches. You have this machine, you're bleeding to death. And as we're bleeding, I'm like, Generac, you gotta pay these invoices. And they're stringing us along. Here's a little. And as it heated up, I said, guys, you have to make this right. You have to do this. And they're like, well, we have to go to the board. And I said, well, you should have went to the board for the stuff before. And they said, well, I don't know what to tell you. And I said, well, either you do it, we're going to sue you for $500 million.